Alaska. Alaska is by far the largest American state. The western tip of Alaska is only 55 miles from the Soviet Union. The United States bought Alaska from Russia in 1867 for 72 lakh dollars. This sum is tiny compared to the gold, furs, platinum, copper, and lumber which Alaska now produces each year. But in 1867, most Americans thought the country had bought land that was just an icebox. They called it Seward's Folly after William H. Seward, the Secretary of State who arranged for its purchase. Alaska is far to the north. Part of it might be called an icebox, but in some parts of Alaska, the climate is surprisingly mild. Juneau, the capital, is almost 1500 miles farther north than Washington, D.C. But a summer day in Juneau may be as warm as the same day in Washington, D.C. There are many islands in Alaska. They are the home of the fur seals. Alaska has mountains and glaciers. The highest mountain in all of North America is there. It is Mount McKinley. Alaska has active volcanoes. The Yukon is Alaska's one great river. The winters are not only long and cold but also dark. In the middle of the winter, the sun does not appear for days or even weeks at a time. Eskimos live in this part of Alaska. In the southern part of the peninsula, the winters are long and cold and the summers short. But the long summer days are rather warm. Gardens grow so fast that magic seems to be at work. Several of Alaska's larger towns and more than a third of its people are in the narrow southern strip. The climate here is mild and there is much rain. Each town is hemmed in by mountain and forest and sea. The scenery is beautiful. A railroad links Skagway, Alaska with Whitehorse, Canada. There is one railroad within the state. There is also much air travel in Alaska. Cars can get to Alaska over the Alaska Highway built during World War II. Alaska is not at all crowded and Anchorage is its largest city. Thank you very much. Each town is hemmed in by mountain and forest and sea. Hemmed in means surrounded. Next, Albania. The Balkan Peninsula reaches southward from Europe into the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. The peninsula is divided among several countries. The smallest of them is Albania. Much of Albania is covered with mountains. A narrow, swampy lowland lies along the coast. Albania's summers are hot and dry, its winters are cool and rainy. Albania is the most backward country in Europe. It has very little industry. Most of its people are farmers. Their main crops are corn, wheat, barley, and tobacco, but the yields are poor. Much of the plowing is still done as it was in the old days with oxen and old fashioned plows. Albania has had a troubled history. The Balkan Peninsula has been the scene of many wars. Albania itself has been ruled at one time or another by Turkey, Serbia, Greece, Bulgaria, Italy, and Germany. After the Germans were driven out at the end of World War II, Albania adopted a communist form of government. Next, albinos. Albino comes from a Latin word that means white. Albinos have no coloring matter or pigment in their skin, fur, scales, or feathers. Albinos have poor eyesight. Their eyes are pink. The color comes from the blood in tiny blood vessels in their eyes. White mice, white rabbits, and white rats are albinos. There are albino robins and squirrels and skunks. Albinos, in fact, are found among a great many kinds of animals. There are even albino people. Wild animals that are albinos seldom live long. Their weak eyes and white bodies make them easy prey for their enemies. Thank you for listening.